So I want to talk about, because it's interesting. So you guys obviously came out of being more left than right, saw these things and kind of came to awareness. I'm assuming, although I don't know this, because some of that I didn't know about the Romania, that were you pro-choice in terms of your early thinking? Because it's interesting. We met, and you guys working on a project called GOSNELL, and I think the movie had just come out, or was about to, when we first met, and then you were doing a book, which I wrote the foreword for your book. So we became friends through the process. So it's one of the most, when you guys asked me to do the foreword, when I read the book, I've never read anything quite like it. I was angry and sad at the same time. I mean, as angry as I've ever been and as sad as I've ever been reading this story that you guys put together in the book about Kermit Gosnell. So I want you to speak to that a little bit about how that changed. That was more in your evolution too, and exactly what you saw from the life perspective.
I think I think I hadn't thought an awful lot about abortion, but I think the default position for most people in Europe is kind of pro-choice. And by the way, pro-choice sounds good. Like, I mean, I like Costco, right? You like choice. America is great because the stores are big and there's loads of choice. So choice sounds really good, and. So we kind of came across this story kind of by accident about Kermit Gosnell. And Phelim was in Philadelphia, heard about this court case, and we were actually promoting our Frack Nation documentary at the time and traveling around or whatever. And he hears about this, goes down into this courthouse, and there are people giving evidence of what they've seen that happened in this this House of Horrors, as it was called. And
it's an abortion clinic.
This abortion clinic,
Philadelphia,
run by this guy called Kermit Gosnell. But people are giving evidence, but also on front of the jury, they projected images of the children. Like they had these photographs.
Yes, and they were blowing up the size of that. And I have covered the Northern Ireland Troubles. I have seen it all. I thought I'd never seen anything like this. I'd never heard evidence like this before in my life of the killing of babies born alive. Yep.
And as Phelim says, one of the most shocking things was he looked behind him, and there were all these. They actually selected a really large courtroom because they expected all the journalists from around the world are going to come to this because it's going to be huge, right? Because this is an extraordinary. This man is on trial for murdering children, for murdering babies who are born alive, and he cut their necks with a scissors.
And he did this hundreds of thousands of times. He's America's biggest serial killer.
So, so they rightfully so, without any kind of to do with pro-life or any of that pro-choice, they just thought, well, this is an incredible story. If it bleeds, it leads. This is the kind of thing. This is a news story.
Journalists,
right? And guess what happens? So Phelim is sitting there in the courtroom, looks around, and there are basically all these empty benches where the journalists should be.
There are actually more people in this room now than there were journalists at that trial. Right, and that is an actual fact. And to me, so I came back to Los Angeles, and I think when you move from liberalism out of liberalism, I think for a lot of people the last thing to go was abortion. Funny enough, because it's such a moral thing. It's hard to accept that you might have been in favor of it in the past, right? For a lot of people.
Yeah, so, when liberals and rednecks meet, most of the time there's friction.
We're rednecks.
We worked that one out.
Yes. So I came home and I said to Ann and Magda, "This is our story. This is," and they said, "No, we don't want to do abortion. We don't want to do abortion." So I ordered the transcripts of the trial, and when they came, I told Ann and Magda, "Read this," right? And they started reading it, and they came back and says, "We're doing this.
There's nothing else we want to do except for this.
We're doing this."
Because what was extraordinary was, and again, this is kind of, I mean, out of extreme evil, very good things can come, bizarrely, I think. And in this case, the thing that was good was that people are asked, there's one thing about, hey, what do you think about this, Alan? And you say, whatever. There's a difference between you answering that or me saying, under oath, put your hand on that Bible and tell me the truth. And by the way, and if you don't tell the truth, we could put you in prison for a while.
That's right.
So people behave differently in a court of law, and they'll tell the truth. So people were asked, what did you see? What did it look like? What did you hear? And so people gave this incredible evidence. And one of the really amazing moments, and this is the reason this is what really motivated us. So at this trial, the really important thing to explain to the jury was the difference between legal abortion and murder. So they needed to make a distinction because obviously abortion is legal here. And in fact, a lot of people don't know this. Abortion in the United States is legal up to 9 months. Perfectly legal in the United States. So this jury needed to understand the difference. So the way to do that is they got a good abortionist to come under oath. Tell me how you do it when you do it well.
Describe good abortion.
Tell me what a good abortion is. Describe to these people here what a good abortion looks like. And so you have someone. This isn't a pro-life rally. This is someone under oath. You tell me now. You do this for a living. Tell me how to do it.
Well, actually,
and that woman described. And that was okay.
First of all,
very funny.
so they said, she's an expert. He's an expert witness. Let's establish your expert bona fides, right? And they said, how many abortions have you done
in your career?
And
the answer was
40,000.
And the jury gasped.
And it was the only time in the trial. Look at Alan with his mouth open.
Yeah, 40,000.
40,000.
So that's one doctor.
That's one doctor.
It's like a factory.
So the jury was looking at pictures of dead babies with wounds in the back of their neck, and they were sitting there like this. The only time they gasped during the whole trial was when that doctor said that, because they'd never considered it this industrial process that people had made careers. They thought it was something legal and rare and safe and all that. Yeah. And now they're going, someone has done 40,000. We put it in the movie. But we cut it down to 30,000 because we thought no one would believe anyone had done 40,000 abortions, right? Because we didn't want to destroy. We didn't want people to go, that's not true. Yeah. So we cut it to 30 because nobody would believe that. So under oath, 40,000, and then.
But basically, she was asked, and so she was asked to describe abortion, and people were just completely aghast. And we know, because we've interviewed members of the jury, nothing shocked them more than the description of a good abortion, of a legal abortion. And it's like, they're sitting there going, and in fact, the jury were they were hand-selected not to be pro-life. They were hand-selected to be either pro-choice or kind of neutral. And by the way, there's no neutrality on this issue.
That's right.
You're pro-abortion or you're anti-abortion. But basically, they're sitting there.
Let's take a quick break. So a lot of times when people are just starting out, new, into building their lives, they don't have debt, which is a good thing, but they also don't have credit because they haven't, they don't have any debt. So these things kind of work hand in hand. So you need your points to be higher to be able to get some, loan or whatever. So the average person gets 97 points immediately if you go to ScoreMaster, which is one of our sponsors. And so it's pretty amazing. On average, it's 61 points in 20 days or less. So if you're about to, buy a car, buy a boat, buy a house, you're going to need this to get your loan. So you can go to their website, scoremaster.com/Phil. You roll in just a few minutes and you see how many points you can add to your credit score. So if you need that, scoremaster.com/Phil. And check these guys out and get your points moved up just a little bit more so you can be able to get that loan.
So they're sitting there and they're hearing this and they were profoundly shocked because for them, they're like, well, there's really no difference between a legal abortion and what this guy did. So what he did was he filled these women up with a thing called cytotec, which meant that they dilated. The babies fell out. And then they just came with the scissors and cut the back of the neck, which killed the babies. But some of the babies were alive, and this is one of the worst parts of the story. People would see them, and the child would be trying to, and it just off. Now I know things that I wish I got an education that more people need this education.
And
you guys actually interviewed GOSNELL in prison.
Oh yeah, we went to prison and we were there for 3 hours.
Can I just say to people, the movie's GOSNELL but it's PG-13.
That's true.
We've taken
That's
a lot of the horrific stuff out of the movie because we wanted as many people. But we kept
the book is not PG-13.
The big book is tough. The book
is tough. It was a tough read.
But yes, we went to visit GOSNELL in prison, and I've been to prisons before visiting murderers, IRA murderers, and all that. And
did he seem disturbed by it all?
Not even slightly. So I'll tell you what it's like to meet him. It's literally he smiles. He's very quiet spoken, and very correct. He's very tall. He's an African American. He's in his 70s. He's very well made. He's very square shouldered, very tall. And it was one of those weird things because obviously we had spent an enormous amount of time working on the book and going through the evidence and going through all the stuff that came out of the photographs and all of that. and speaking to everyone. We'd spoken to the detective, Jim Wood, who's a complete hero of ours, and the ADA and all these kind of people. And so then you're with this man, and he's like, and he's putting a hand out, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to shake this hand. And then, like, he's all about his hands, and he's all about his feet. And one of the things that people, and some of your audience probably know this, but he has a thing about feet. So he cut the feet off some of these babies and kept them in jars
and labeled them.
So when the cops raided the clinic the first night when the first raid that they did with Jim Wood there, they find this cabinet in the same place where people have their peanut butter and Jell-O sandwiches, right? There's a cabinet filled with these jars of children's feet. And in one case, two little feet. And they're like looking at this and thinking, what is this? Is this normal? Because people don't know. And it's like, is that normal? Of course, it's not normal. That is not normal to do that.
Which you called him a serial killer. That's exactly what you think
yes.
of.
Well, in the movies, they keep mementos of but
that's the most brutal story I've ever heard.
Oh, well, here's what made me. So that made me super sad. What made me super angry that you bring out in the book and in the movie, but more in the book, is that there was a Republican governor at the time when this was all going down. Tom Ridge. And basically what they did was just back away from all abortion clinics. So nobody is checking on him. So he's just running this horror shop. It's filthy. It's nasty. There's cats running around all over the place. And these women are coming in. And one woman actually died there.
Two women died there.
And so, which nothing ever happened to it because basically a Republican governor said, we're not going to deal with abortion in any way. And so there was no control over this. He was able to do this for all these years. And what infuriated, I'm still mad about it to this day, is that you'll hear Hillary Clinton or somebody else talk about women's health as if somehow it's about helping women. And this guy was running this butcher shop. And by the way, all those kids he was killing, half of them were women.
Oh, yeah.
So, or soon to be women. So
and an enormous number of them, a very high percentage of them were African-American children.
Right.
Who are forever lost.
And that's what I thought. I just thought the system failed all these people so miserably.
Yes.
Supposedly.
The last stat I saw on it, it had like African-Americans, 18 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I told you guys,
I
told our audience that the last 2 years in a row, there have been more African-American children killed in New York City
since the
Then we're
Supreme
born.
Court.
Yes.
Since the Supreme Court ruled it was you have the right to choose. 18 million.
And Gosnell, he Gosnell believes he's innocent. History will vindicate him. He's very affable. He behaved like he'd just come in from a round of golf. Hey, hello, and he sits down and. We're sitting there, and I thought it was going to be through plastic glass, and of course, and it's like he's actually sitting closer to us than you guys are, right?
Yes, right
and Ann and I are sitting like this, and he comes in, and of course, any decent person would sit opposite me. He comes in, and he sits opposite Ann, and through the whole interview, he keeps going, "Let me tell you, Ann," and putting his hand on her knee,
just creepy, right?
Creepy, and Ann's looking at it, but see, as journalists, we're not there to be offended, right? I mean, I hate this when journalists go, oh, the police shouted at me or the police did this. You're there in the middle. You're there covering things. It's a dirty, messy
job. It's your job. It's your job to listen to this guy.
It's our job to listen. Most Americans don't have the opportunity or couldn't handle that.
That's right.
Our job is to go in and talk to this mass murdering serial killer and try and understand how it happened and try and bring people information.
Right.
So if he puts his hand
and by the way,
on my knee or Ann's knee, it doesn't matter. We'll suck it up. And
we were on the side. And we were on the side of the angels, and he's there, and he is. I mean, he has. They talk about affect. This thing of affect. So he has as Phelim says, he has the affect of just having just had a cocktail or something. He's got this kind of super relaxed. You'd almost feel like you were in a kind of a country club with him. That's the way he's behaving.
And he's
very super
cultured.
Unaffected by anything, and we let him talk quite a bit at the beginning to let him warm up or whatever, and then we started asking him very direct questions, and you could see him. He dropped his eyes and went, "Oh, you know about that," and this is kind of how he would, but he was incredible. I mean, he's just a liar.
Yeah,
he's just a liar.
Think about the verses that talk about the conscience is seared with a hot iron. God giving over to depravity, which you earlier read, and that's this guy. Let's take one last break. So we're in our last segment here.
Yes.
So I wanted to basically we kind of followed your career, but it's also interesting how that's put you on the path